I'm gonna spill the tea today. Actually, I hope I'm not gonna spill it because it's still kind of hot. But I'm gonna drink the tea and answer your questions. Hi everybody, I got a recent influx of new subscribers, and if you're new, I'm so glad you're here. And if you're not new, you've been around a while, I'm so glad you're still here. I asked if you guys wanted me to do a Q&A where I talked about just the things you wanted me to talk about. And I got a lot of responses for that, and I was able to get a lot of questions off of Instagram and on the YouTube community tab here. I have them all collected on my iPad so that I can answer your questions in a somewhat organized manner. If I missed any of your questions, I'm so sorry. Hopefully I will get to them next time, or you can ask me in the comments below, and at least when this video goes live, I will be trying to be in the comments for that day to answer your questions while I answer questions in this video, because it's a questions answering kind of day. My idea here is to have all of the questions divided up into like basic subject areas, so they'll be divided into chapters in the description box if you have anything specific you're looking for. I just learned how to do that and I'm feeling very suave. And we're going to start with one of my favorite things to talk about, which is my family. My kids, my husband. Not my cats, they actually get their own category. I got several questions about Jesse and I, especially how we met and like fell for each other. We met playing World of Warcraft. I was playing with a group of people from Trader Joe's where I was working at the time. We were all night crew. We would get online after getting off work super late, like 11 or 12 o'clock, and then play for a while at night. One of the other people in my work group met Jesse because he also was working late nights on the West Coast, working in the music industry in LA. And so he found other West Coast people who were playing at night, and he started playing with us, came up, visited, met all of us, and he wanted to change, so he decided to move to Napa. And then after he moved up here, he asked me out. So I went out with him, and we just discovered that we are very well suited to each other. Thanks, World of Warcraft. What does Jesse do? He vibes like an IT person, but I don't think that's right. That makes sense because he knows how to do a bunch of IT stuff, but he is not an IT person. Jesse is a marketer. He works in online marketing for a wine company, but it's all online, so that makes sense. He also basically can be like the Mr. Fix-It, the Swiss Army knife of both work and our house when it comes to figuring things out, especially when it comes to computers. So you weren't off base with that feeling. How has it changed your work life having Jesse home? Actually, it's been kind of rough. I'll address more of this in the work section of my Q&A, but I've been working for myself from home for 4 years now, and it took some time to get used to, but I got into a good routine, and then having Jesse home and the kids home all day really kind of threw a monkey wrench into that. Now that he's out in the garage, that helps more, but it still can be rough, especially since, if you can't tell from the echoiness of my sound, I'm in the middle of the living room. That's where my office is, and not having a door that I can close on my office, it makes things really difficult when you have other people in the house who are on Zoom calls all day. Plus, I don't get any space for myself, like any quiet Cindy time. I love being around everybody, but there are times when I just want my personal time, and it's a lot harder to come by that because we've all been stuck inside together for so long. Not that I'm shitting on that. I do love spending time with my fam. How do your kids and their friends feel about you being, quote, YouTube famous? My kids think it's kind of cool, not in a I'm cool way, but in a it's an interesting thing way. Their friends, I think the ones that know about it, are also like mildly amused by it. I wouldn't say that they're all like, hell yeah, if I was maybe like a millions of subscriber person or I did video games or something, but I do fucking planner videos and I'm in my 40s now. So there's only so far that takes you in the coolness factor for teenagers. It's maybe cooler than if I was still working at Trader Joe's, I guess. Where is Kat looking at for schools? Kat is actually not thinking about that right now. Community college is probably Kat's idea, but everything being virtual right now is kind of thrown, I want to say monkey wrench. There's gonna be a lot of monkey wrenches in this particular video, but like I would say that virtual everything has made planning for the future a little fraught in this house. So that's not really something that we are discussing right now. Kat is interested potentially at some point in going to school for maybe graphic design or business. I was much more interested in colleges at this point when I was that age, but that's not Kat's bag, baby. Have your kids shown any interest in going the artist route as a job like their mom? Yeah. Kat has, actually, not RJ. RJ might be interested in doing stuff involving video games in the internet, but Kat is most definitely interested in being a graphic artist or a graphic novel illustrator, or there's all sorts of different areas. But Kat most definitely does want to pursue some sort of career in the arts. Now, this question was not family related, but I put it here because that's the answer is family related. And that is 2020 sucked balls, but what's the best thing that it gave you? The 4 months that I had with my kids straight. I have not had them longer than 2 weeks in a row since they were 3 and 5 and we started sharing custody. And having them both here for 4 months was different. Our rhythms were very different after that, and the cats actually took quite some time both to adjust to it and then to adjust to it when it was over. But there was a point last year where my ex-husband and his wife decided it would be safest for all of us to have them at one house during the quarantine. But it got hard on their mental health, and so we are back to week on, week off. Having my kids with me full time for a while is something I will treasure. And then leading into that is this question: is your ex as awesome of a parent as you? How do your kids feel about 50-50? My ex-husband is a great dad. We do parent differently, but we have very similar views on things that are important to both of us. I am grateful to have the co-parenting relationship with him that I do. When it comes to the 50-50 schedule, my kids actually have kind of differing opinions. Kat loves seeing both parents on the regular, but during that aforementioned 4 months at a time, Kat realized that they actually really much preferred to not have to rechange their schedule, like to go through the transition every single week. And so that is something that they hadn't realized until they got into it. But Kat also remembers a time when that wasn't the case. RJ does not remember a time when we did not share 50-50 custody, and he really wants to see both of his parents on a regular basis. He doesn't like it when we go longer than 2 weeks between seeing families, which is usually like our vacation kind of time frame. So they're both used to it, but I would say that they are different levels of attached to it. So this question is from YouTube. It was 2 questions. I'll get to the other one later, but this particular one is, what are you most proud of in regards to your kids? And it is most definitely how protective and caring they are of each other, especially if you have 2 kids who are relatively close in age. Mine are about 2 years apart. They go through phases where they just want to strangle each other, and they still do that sometimes, but right now they are both immensely bonded to each other, very protective of each other. They need each other, and they are a little pair, man. And to see the care that they both take with each other, especially knowing the way I feel about my sisters and seeing that really start to blossom in them, makes me so proud of both of them for developing their relationship with each other outside of what their parents expect from them. Speaking of which, my sister asks, how much do you love your sister? Hella. I have a lot of questions regarding being a parent of an LGBTQ kid, about Kat coming out as non-binary pronouns, so I want to kind of keep those in their own little section here. Was it hard for you to go from calling Kat she to they? I have never heard you slip. You've never heard me slip because I can edit my videos. I do slip. I don't slip anywhere near as much as I used to, but it did take some time to get used to it. I don't really struggle with the pronouns anymore. I struggle with the term sibling instead of sister, because there was a long time where RJ just called Kat sister, and I was in the habit of like, get your sister, go talk to sister, and changing that to just Kat or sibling has been a little bit more challenging for me, but it just takes time and practice. You know, if you struggle with pronouns for somebody, just keep practicing. When you screw it up, just correct yourself and move on. Don't make a huge deal out of it, because shit will happen, but just acknowledge you're trying to do as good as you can, and you will continue to do better. And then try and do better. How did you approach your kids' queerness? My daughter, 10, informed me she may be, and I thought I was progressive, but I was just caught off guard. Here is my thought on the subject. I have said as much in other videos. I have said it to my ex-husband. I have said it to family members, and I have said it to just everybody, because it's the heart of how I felt when my kid came out to me as queer in the different ways that Kat identifies as queer. I trust myself when it comes to who I am. I know who I am. I know that I'm cisgender. I know that I'm heterosexual. I just know it. I don't need to examine it. I just know it. I trust my husband when he tells me who he is. I trust my son when he tells me who he is. And I trust my other kid when they tell me who they are. It might take time to wrap my mind around the assumptions that I made about my kid and having to dismiss those for the reality that they're telling me. But that's what they were. They were my assumptions, not who they are. And I would love for us to evolve to a place as a society where the norm is not cisgender heterosexual. The norm is that we're all people and each of us is different. That's what I would like. It's real easy, and I'm the same way. That's why like there's gender reveal parties and things like that. People, they find out one thing and they assume that that's the way it's going to be. And then when something changes, you actually go through, like as a parent, I've heard of people talking about the mourning process when one of their family members comes out as, especially one of their kids comes out as trans. Even if they are so accepting and so thrilled that their kid is discovering who they are, there is a part of you that grieves what you thought the future with your kid was going to be. There's nothing wrong with feeling that. The key is that while you grieve the thing you thought was going to be, celebrate the reality that your kid trusts you enough to tell you who they really are and embrace who they really are, because they're your kid and you love them and they're going to be wonderful no matter who they are. And as a matter of fact, if they are living fully into who they are, I feel like I'm talking in circles, but if they're living fully into who they are, then that's the most happiness you can expect from your kid. Like, all I want from my kids is for them to be sure of who they are and proud of who they are. Their gender identity, who they love, all of those things are part of who they are. And them having a deep understanding of who they are and sharing that with you is something to celebrate. Even if there might be a part of you that's like, I have to grapple with this. Just remember that the grappling is on you, not on them. They shouldn't have to deal with any of that. They should just get your love and your support. And any grieving or feelings that you have, those can be saved for when you're on your own or when you're talking with your significant other. So I have a couple of questions about reacting when my kid, aside from the pronouns, how did I react when my kid came out? I basically kind of explained this already, but it was kind of like, oh, okay, thank you. Good to know. And then clarifying questions. Because like I said, it's who they are. I'm proud of them for telling me about it. And I want to make sure that I support them the best way that they can. And I am just thankful that they know themselves well enough to be able to tell me. And somebody asked, did it change your view on the LGBTQ plus community? I don't think it changed my view. I grew up in a family that is very accepting. We have multiple members of that community in our family already. It deepened my feelings of protectiveness, and like my mama bear feelings have hardcore come out because, you know, it's my kid. I wish that I was it was not COVID and that I wasn't like so fragile when it comes to my kid. Needs to be able to be one of those people who offers mom hugs to LGBTQ youth who don't have parents that are accepting of them. Like, I would love to just snuggle up to all of them and just make them feel loved for who they are. So it didn't change my view, but it might have deepened my protective feelings. Would love to hear your thoughts for loving on and supporting kids who are struggling with identity and supporting them in navigating the world as an LGBTQIA person. I can tell you from my own kids' experience that one of the greatest helps that they had was being connected to other people their age who had similar struggles, whether they were the exact struggles or whether they were just within under that umbrella or whatever the case may be. Having the club at school with other queer people in it, having the group of people through our youth group at church, having other queer friends was so immensely helpful. So connecting someone in your life to resources that allow them to, whether there's things at school or if there is a youth organization in town, those sorts of things can be so much more helpful. And then the other thing is to support them in the way they ask to be supported and using their pronouns, in loving on them and supporting them in who they are and making sure that they understand that you don't love them despite of these things or because of these things, you just love them. And these things are part of who they are and you love them. To me, that's very important. And to also be ready to advocate for them when there are other people in their lives who are not as prepared to love them, whether they struggle with their pronouns or refuse to use their pronouns. One thing you run into a lot, at least with people who use they, them pronouns, are the people who are like, but they, them is plural. Like, I was taught that too, but you know what? Fuck that. Like, if this is what they want you to call them, fucking call them that. Don't worry about whether you think you're grammatically incorrect. Is your grammar more important than somebody's feelings? Stuff like that. Be ready to advocate. Don't be afraid or shy to advocate for them if the person in your life needs you to. Questions all from the same person. When your eldest told you they were non-binary, what was your reaction? How did you find ways to support them? Are there things you still struggle with? I think I've addressed all of these already. Does anyone in your family have ADHD or other neurodivergencies? And if yes, how do you or they cope with them? Not that I know of, but that is something we're actually looking into for one of my kids right now. So I don't actually have any information on that for you. I know my kids do at their dad's house with another member of their family, but that's not something I can speak to. I noticed you got rid of all your Harry Potter washi tape. Are those two things linked? And is there a video where you talk about this? They absolutely are linked, and I talk a little bit about this in my, my regrets from 2020 video. I'll leave it linked up above. Yeah, it is. Now that I've talked about my family, let's take a few seconds to talk about my cats and my pet situation. Who loves you more, Lucy or Loki? I would say that I don't know which one loves me more. Loki is a much more affectionate cat. He's a very empathetic cat, and he always will come up to me when I'm not feeling good and snuggle me, whereas Lou follows me around the house, but he's not a snuggly boy. I am neither of the cats' person. If I was anybody's person, I would be Lucy's person, but Lucy has bonded onto Loki as his person, and Loki's person is Jessie, but they both adore me as well. I don't know which one loves me more. I think Lucy loves me more than he loves Jessie. I think Loki loves Jessie more than he loves me. Then there's people asking about the whole not a cat lady thing. Yeah, it's sarcastic. It's been a running joke. I hated cats for the longest time because I had a family cat who hated me. Luigi, an orange boy who's basically Loki's doppelganger, which my family finds never-endingly funny, that my defenses were put up by an orange boy and have now been taken down by an orange boy. Jessie had to talk me into cats after being together, I think, for like 8 years. And now half the pictures I send to my sisters in our group chat are cats. How many cables has your kittens destroyed? What do you do to avoid it? Okay, so we actually haven't had that much of a problem with Lucy, knock on wood. Loki, when we got him, was already an older, like, I think he was 7 when we got him, and very well behaved for a cat. The only thing he does that we don't like is tear up our furniture when he's stressed out. Lou has been fascinated by cables, but hasn't really chomped on any of them, mostly because he does not leave our bedroom at night when we sleep. We lock him in, our litter robot, and he has food and everything in there. But both cats stay in our room at night, mostly because with Lucy, he likes to be on my desk, and I cannot keep my desk clean enough to not have him knock shit over. But it's also partly the cords. Jessie's got a lot of electronics and guitar cables and shit like that. And we were pretty vigilant about it when he was a kitten. We also have this like spongy shit that we use to like wrap our cords together for cords. I don't know what it's called. It's some fucking shit that's meant for cord management. Jessie put it there, but that keeps him from chewing on things. So I don't think we've done anything magical, but we have been very, very vigilant with watching the Lou when it comes to the cords. And then there were several questions about a dog. Did you say you're getting the house ready for a puppy potentially? We originally were going to try and get a puppy, but I think we're going to go for a rescue dog instead. Just after some soul searching and some conversations and things like that. Hopefully, but like 3-year-old is kind of the age range we want to go for. You've been talking recently about getting a dog. What breed are you thinking about? We're looking into the retriever land, golden retrievers, labs, that sort of situation, because we want a big happy boy. Are you going to train your dog as a therapy dog? That wasn't really on my list of things. No, I don't think so. Okay, let's go into some home related things, cooking, household, etc. What is your favorite type of food or meal? Mashed potatoes. Without a doubt. I fucking love mashed potatoes. And I don't like mashed potatoes with a whole bunch of like cheese and shit and garlic. I like that, that's fine. But like standard, like made with lots of cream and butter and salt and pepper mashed potatoes, it's my favorite. And I'm so glad that my potassium is low, even though I'm in like late stage kidney disease, because I still get to eat all the potatoes I want. Hell yeah! Makes the giant pills worth it. Bunch of questions about favorite recipes, and they all have the same answer right now. What's your current favorite recipe, your favorite new recipe, your best favorite soup recipe, and what's for dinner? These all actually are the same answer, and it's chicken gnocchi soup. It was from a website called The Recipe Rebel, although I have altered it a little bit, basically bumping up all the veggies and adding a shit ton of garlic to it. I'll leave it linked down below. Top 3 recipes when you need something super easy to cook. The chicken gnocchi soup is actually right there because it comes together really, really quickly. Spaghetti in the Instant Pot, 10 out of 10 recommend. Goes so fast and the cleanup is super simple. And then Jesse's magical dinner salads, which are not really that magical. He grills a bunch of chicken. We have the chicken in the fridge. You heat the chicken up, use greens, whatever veggies that we've got in the fridge, just throw them in the salad. Avocado, I don't do avocado, but he does. Ranch, whatever dressing you want, croutons, etc., and just stir it all up with the chicken. My favorite current mix is chicken, ranch dressing, spring mix, microgreens, and shredded carrots with some croutons on top. And that's my personal favorite. The kids like adding avocado. It's one of the things that has actually really helped when I'm super nauseated. If you could only live off of one meal for the rest of your life, what would you pick? Mashed potatoes. If I could survive on just mashed potatoes, I probably, like with gravy, I probably would. If you could have anything in the world for dinner with no negative reactions, what would you have? God, I would kill to have some like tuna nigiri, like made by an excellent sushi chef that's like super fresh. Like that sounds small, but we have been like the only sushi we've allowed ourselves, and we haven't even allowed ourselves that much since COVID started, was like super fried sushi, because the raw food, my husband is just too concerned about that. But yeah, like just a plate of like tuna, yellowtail, and like the white tuna sashimi, or like nigiri. Oh, raw fish. Are you going to grow your own vegetables one step up from herbs? I'm gonna give myself the herbs first, and then we'll see about the vegetables. I actually am even taking a step away from the herbs to start. I got one of those indoor little kits that you can use to grow your own microgreens, because as a house, we have gotten super obsessed with microgreens lately. So that's where I'm starting. But veggies, we shall see. And then I have a few home-related questions as well. What is the patio set you have in your backyard? We got it off of Amazon. I will leave it linked down below. I fucking love it. I love it so much. And then we have these two questions that are very similar to each other. What is your favorite thing and least favorite thing about living in California, and your most and least favorite things about living in Napa? Well, my least favorite thing is the same for both of those questions. It's the cost of living. It costs so much fucking money to live here. It is expensive as fuck. Those of you who live in like a ginormous 8,000 square foot fucking McMansion in some other part of the United States are probably paying half as much as we have to pay for our tiny little 1,100 square foot house here in Napa. Fucking hate it. I guess I'll also say that the other thing that I hate the most besides cost of living is the fact that wildfire season is like a thing now. It's not just like we had a bad wildfire year. It's like every year now when it gets windy, we all start stressing out that we're going to smell fires at night. Earthquakes don't even bother me, but wildfires, fuck, dude. My favorite thing living in Napa, I love being able to drive up valley when either the vineyards are all green or they're all like yellow and gold in the fall. So gorgeous. It is so gorgeous living here. And then living in California, one of my favorite things about living here is I really like the weather. It's not very humid. It rains occasionally. Like I wouldn't mind living somewhere that was colder or that rained more or maybe even had snow. It's humidity that I hate. And California is very temperate, and I have always loved that. To being dry sometimes. And then this question's super interesting because I had never actually heard of this before, but apparently this person has. I heard that people who live in California or other states with earthquakes never hang decor over their beds in case an earthquake comes while you're sleeping and something falls and hits you in the head. Whenever you film in your bedroom, I get so distracted about that, seeing your blue paintings over your bed. Did you hang those in a special way? No, but they're very, very light. If they fell on my head, it wouldn't hurt. It would just wake me up. The Napa earthquake in 2014, which was the biggest earthquake I've ever lived through, where I was close enough to the epicenter, the big Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989, I absolutely felt that. We've had furniture fall over and shit, but we were far enough from the epicenter where we didn't have the massive situations. But the 2014 earthquake that fucked buildings up and shit and left us without power for a few days, yeah, that one knocked over hella shit in our house. My TV landed on me. The biggest concern I would have with an earthquake is not the paintings over my bed because they're super light. It would be the bookcases that are next to my bed, and those are absolutely adhered to the wall in the studs. Like they are not going anywhere. And Jesse's guitars, but Jesse's guitars, we have, again, hangers that are specifically meant to withstand an earthquake. We had a friend during the 2014 earthquake who lost his giant TV, but his guitars were all like they hadn't even moved, and those are the hangers my husband decided to invest in. Moving on to religion. This will be quick. I've only got a few questions, but they are very similar because this is one of those things I get asked about a lot when newer people find my channel, especially if they see one of my goal videos or one of my other videos where I talk about church, but I also talk about not being Christian. The first question is, I was always interested in your religion. And then I have other questions about my religious journey, how I was brought up, how have things changed, how did I find my church? So I'll just give you the quick rundown. Both of my parents had not been raised completely without any religion, but neither of them were super religious. My dad identified as an agnostic, and my mom just did not give a shit. At least the way she treated it with us. Like Christmas to us was always very secular. But my sisters and I also did do things like vacation Bible school because we had neighbors who thought that we needed more religion in our lives. And so my parents were like, fuck yeah, free babysitting, and sent us to vacation Bible school. I was always fascinated by different religions. My dad wanted us to just figure it out for ourselves. The joy of being human, that we get to make these decisions for ourselves. And so he just sent us off into the world. And if we wanted to ask him questions, he'd answer what he thought. But There wasn't a lot of like structure there. So I would go with my friends to various religious ceremonies, Catholic and Adventist, and I went to a like church where they spoke in tongues once. It scared the shit out of me. I did not expect that. Visited a bunch of things, talked to a bunch of people. I've read different books that have to do with different traditions. I've read the Bible. I've read parts of the Torah. I have read Ramayana and Mahabharata in forms that are accessible, mostly for college, but like I've looked at different things, I've been interested in them, but my whole life I've kind of identified as an atheist. And then when I had kids, I decided that I wanted them to also decide for themselves, but I wanted them to have a little bit more structure. I wanted them to have a place where they could go, where they could ask questions safely of somebody who's not their parent, because parents are not always the ones who kids listen to, and where they could learn about other religions and learn, good thing like about being like moral people, following my values, shit like that. That's when I found the Unitarian Universalists here in Napa, and I started going there, and then I stopped for whatever reason, and then I started going again with my kids, and this time I just kept going. And I went there because of my kids, but I actually found the social justice work that the congregation was doing and the music program to be the things that really drew me into it. And now I consider myself to be a Unitarian Universalist humanist. What does that mean? UUs do not have a creed that we follow. The Unitarian Universalists began as Christians, the Unitarians and the Universalists, and then they merged, but they also took on a lot of humanism. The easiest way to put it is that UUs do not tell you what to believe, but more we have a set of guiding principles on how we approach the world and how we approach our faith and our spirituality. The idea that each of us is on our own spiritual journey, and our job is not to tell someone what that journey is, but to support them while they discover it for themselves, along with other things. My favorite principle from the UU 7 guiding principles is that every human has worth and dignity. That's very important to me, as well as respecting the interconnected web of life that we're all a part of here on this earth. I have heard that they are working on adding another principle about racial equity and dismantling white supremacy, and I am all fucking for that. So that's the UU side of me. Now, in the UU world, there are people who still identify as Christians and as UUs. There are some UU congregations that lean pretty heavily Christian. The one that I have been a part of here in Napa tends to lean more humanist and pagan. It depends on who's in the congregation. I tend to be humanist. When I say I'm a humanist rather than an atheist, I am much more concerned with how people treat each other here on earth, and that heaven and hell are things we make for ourselves. And when people ask me what I have faith in, my faith is in the inherent goodness in people. Most people, the vast majority of people, have the capability to be selfless, to be good, to do things for others because they choose to, not because they have to. The capability for those of us as humans to band together and to do what's right. And that's what I'm concerned with, not what else is out there. Although I'm fascinated by studying what people think is out there and wondering about it. So that's kind of how I see things. Now there's some questions here also about how my faith journey has been shaped and how I became a humanist, and was it my parents? Actually, I don't think my parents really talked about or thought about being humanists, but they were. Looking back on it, especially my father. My father's optimism in terms of believing in the best in people and believing that people will do right by each other ultimately, that is something that he passed on to me, and that's what informs being a humanist for me. I don't know if he ever thought of himself that way, but I bet if he was around now and could talk to me about it, he probably would. I feel most strongly aligned with people regardless of what their religion is, if through their faith they practice the social gospel. They practice the idea of doing right by other people, about fighting for change in a world that needs it, for not being a savior, but for being an extra set of hands when people need help, those sorts of things. And I found my home, my faith home here in Napa, by connecting with people who felt the same way I did. Let's go from that inspirational point of view to talking about chronic illness. Me being sick. How old were you when you were first diagnosed with PKD? I was 22 years old. My father died when I was 21. He died 10 days after 9/11 from a brainstem aneurysm that was brought on from complications with polycystic kidney disease, which is the genetic disease that I have. As a result of that, my sisters and I all got examined, and 2 of us were diagnosed. I had cysts all over my kidneys, but I didn't start having problems with blood pressure or kidney function for several more years. I did have 2 babies after that. When I was pregnant with RJ, my second, that was when my blood pressure started getting out of control during the pregnancy, but I didn't have to start going onto blood pressure medication and dealing with all of that until my late 20s. And now here I am in late stage kidney disease. Good times. Do you ever feel like your health is affecting your relationship with Jesse? That's a hard question because I don't really know the answer to that. I have actually asked him about that. Multiple times I have asked him about that to try and check in with him. It's hard for him to watch me hurt. It's hard for him to watch me not feel great. We are so focused on communicating with each other that I don't think that there has been any time for any like really hurt things that could harm the relationship to kind of fester, both with my health and with other things. And he is type 1 diabetic, so he is not unaware of the struggles of being somebody who is chronically ill. But yeah, I don't think so, but I'm not Jesse, so I guess I can't answer that question fully. How did you teach your kids about your chronic illness at a young age specifically? I didn't teach them about it as much as I never kept it a secret from them. I have been sick their entire lives, although it was when they started getting a little bit older that, like when they were, in elementary school, when I started having more symptoms and other things. I've wanted them to see that I can be sick and still have a happy life. I can be sick and still have all the same problems that other people's families have and all the same good things. It's just I have to be a little bit more careful or I'm in more pain now. Never making it a big thing, but also never making it a secret has been very important to me because my dad, we knew that he was sick. We knew he had kidney problems, but he didn't super talk about it ever. And then when he died, it kind of blindsided us. Like we weren't expecting it. And I want my kids to understand that it's not a death sentence. We as humans are dying every day from the day we're born. I could die from this. I could die from a car accident. Who fucking knows, right? And both of them have a chance of having it, which is the more important thing. Like to me, it's important to model for them that I am somebody who is sick, but being sick is not all of who I am because one day they might be sick. I want them to understand that it is okay to be stressed out and okay to there's all of these things, but at the same time to not see it as a complete boogeyman. My mom is undergoing treatment. What is something your kids do that you really appreciate? Holy shit. Oh my God. Easy. Well, I mean, for my teenagers, so this might not be the same for you, but for my teenagers, if they do shit like their homework or their dishes or whatever without having to be asked, massively appreciate that. But oftentimes it's when like if they go out to the garage to get like a bubbly water and they bring me a ginger ale because they know it settles my stomach without asking. It's little things. It's not big things. It's little things to show that they're paying attention and that they appreciate me as opposed to having me just be another piece of furniture around the house until they need me. This is probably very specific to teenagers, but it's real easy as a parent of teenagers to feel that you are taken for granted, like when they need you. These things would feel good regardless, but because I'm sick, they feel even extra better. How have you learned to deal with less energy? I'm 14, 15, and because of epilepsy meds, I am losing my energy and I'm a bit perfectionistic, so this process is hard for me. I also wanted to say I love your content, and you helped me through dark days. That's really sweet. Here's the thing. You will get used to it. It takes time to get used to it. And while you're getting used to it, you need to be really kind to yourself. I'm not super perfectionist. I like to have control, and when my energy levels dip, and they dip often and then they stay dipped, it can be really hard for me to recognize that I need to both be nicer to myself and set lower expectations, because high expectations do nothing except for make me feel bad because I can't meet them. Or I like work myself into hella pain for meeting them and then have to be in bed for a week. One way, it's kind of superficial, but it helps that I can deal when my energy dips, is to make a really granulated to-do list. Instead of like dishes need to be taken care of, I'll write rinse the dishes, load the dishwasher, unload the dishwasher. So I have more things to check off, even though I'm doing the same thing, like the same one task. Makes me feel better that I've been more productive, and that helps. You need to sort of trick your brain a little bit to be nicer to yourself as you get used to it, because you will get used to it. It just takes time. Best of luck, man. Got a lot of questions about donors, being a living donor. How can we help you? I need a kidney. I haven't gone on hardcore full blast trying to find people to give me kidneys. And I know some of you have sent me emails that I haven't responded to you yet because I am just, oh God, it's I'm gonna be real with you. I'm always real, but I'm gonna be really real with you for a second here. It really stresses me out when people say that they want to help be a donor, because I don't want to get my hopes up to have them shattered, because I've had them shattered. We have been working on getting Jesse an email address so that if you would like to be a donor, you can email him and he will take care of getting you pointed in the right direction, so I don't have to know about it, so I don't have to get my hopes up about it. There are some of you who are already in various stages of the process. I'm not talking about you. We've already gotten that far. I'm talking about other people, like adding to it. Look in the description box. There will be a link for you that you can go and talk to my husband, and he can point you in the right direction and do the thing. To be a living donor, you first have to fill out a questionnaire on the website through the UC donor system, because I'm going through the University of California. That questionnaire basically rules out any like major thing that would stop you from being a donor, and then there's some blood work, and then if you get past those stages, then you might get invited to San Francisco to do more. There's more that goes into it. And if you really want me to do a video about it, let me know. But this is something that's really hard for me to talk about, because like I hate talking about money. Whenever I talk about a new Skillshare class or Patreon or whatever, I get like this feeling in my chest, and it's like 5 times bigger when I talk about this. But at the same time, you guys want to know what you can do to help me find a kidney. Because if I can get a kidney and get these giant motherfucking kidneys taken out, my quality of life will be improved, even though I will be on anti-rejection meds for the next forever. You mentioned having to have dental work before you get a transplant. Why is that? What does one have to do with the other? Asking because I grew up like you and never went to the dentist, and I'm scared as hell to go to one. You can't get any dental work done after you get a transplant for like 6 months because of, or some X amount of months, because of risk of infection, and because your teeth are so, like it's so like a cavity, anything else. Like they don't want your mouth to have anything that could cause any sort of infection when your body is in the extreme stages of the beginnings of the anti-rejection meds. When you get a transplant, your body treats it like it's an invading tissue, because it is. And so your immune system goes to work on it, which is why you have to take so many immunosuppressant drugs, which is why people who have transplants in general are so immunocompromised. But at the beginning of the transplant process, in the months when you first have a transplant, to keep your body from rejecting it right off the bat, you are on a shit ton of immunosuppressant drugs. And then eventually it mellows out to your like what you're going to be on for the life of your organ. What they don't want is have anything that could fuck you up and cause major problems and cause you to lose your kidney. I've been terrified of the dentist my whole fucking life, and I am not looking forward to that. And then I had several of you asking how I am. How am I? I'm okay. I'm not great. Great is not something I really feel anymore, but I'm okay. Not as in pain as I was this weekend. That's a good thing. Relaxing for my birthday helped, which I'm filming this after my birthday weekend. And there's a big weight that's off of my shoulders because I reached the age of 41 and my dad died from PKD when he was 40. And that's something that has been scaring me for a long time. I know it's superstitious. And I'm also really stressed, but I can't really talk about that right now. Stay tuned. How do you deal with the frustration that comes with chronic pain? How do you cope with the invisible illness thing? I find it hard. Do you have any tips? Have you found anything in particular that helps you cope with the scarier, sad parts of your illness? Therapy helps. I am on Celexa. That helps even me out a little bit. Talking to my family. This is an area that I consider myself to be lucky, but in a terrible way, that I have a grandma and a sister, many other family members as well, but specifically my grandma and my sister, who both also have PKD and are farther along than I am. Now they both have transplants. My sister Amy has been where I'm at a few years ago. Having somebody to talk to who knows exactly the things I'm dealing with is so helpful. And so if you have a chronic illness or an invisible illness and you are frustrated and you just need to get it off your chest, support groups might freak you out, but like find somebody who knows, kind of like has an idea of what you're going through because they went through it. Because you don't have to explain. That's the best part, is being able to talk about something that sucks and to not have to give it context, because the person I'm talking to already has the context. For me, that is by far and away the thing that helps me the most when I'm having a really hard time. I have gone through pretty severe depressions. Remember I was talking about earlier about like when the energy levels dip and then stay dipped, and like the pain level, all those things, it happens to me fairly often, and my sister is the one that talks me through it. The other thing I try to remember as often as I can is that I don't have to do everything. Some things other people can do. Some things don't need to get done. Rest is productive. Rest is productive. Resting is productive. Taking care of yourself is productive. Laying in bed because you're exhausted and in pain. There's nothing wrong with that. Assholes who act like there is something wrong with that. There is somebody, a very famous motivational speaker who recently got divorced and likes to tell us all to wash our face. I stopped enjoying her content years and years ago when she basically said something along the lines of people who say that they're winning just by laying down, that they suck. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. Point is, she's wrong. You don't suck for that. Do doctor's appointments sometimes set you back in work because of their length and frequency? Worried mine are going to slow me down in college a bit. No, I work for myself, so I kind of can like schedule things around that. There are 2 times I've had fistula surgery now where I was writing a book in the middle of it and I had to work things around that. But other than that, it's not been that difficult. Telehealth has really helped with that actually now in COVID-19 because my doctor's office is not in my town for my kidney problems. It's just if you are chronically ill, you're gonna have the appointments. It's gonna become second nature. You'll get used to it and you'll figure it out. And if you're in college and you're really worried about it, the key is, and this works for jobs too, be upfront. If you say, I'm going to need some help on a deadline here or something because of some appointments or whatever, it is much better to talk to your professor or to whoever else ahead of time than it is when you're already in the hole. Did you have postpartum depression or anxiety after you had your kids? How did you cope with it? What point were you in your journey as an artist at that time, or were you even an artist yet? I had postpartum depression with my oldest. And with RJ, I don't remember having postpartum depression. If I did, I don't remember it, but with Kat, I most definitely did. I actually had to deal with a lot of unresolved grief issues after I had Kat from my dad dying. I have no advice for you on how to cope with it well because I did not cope with it well. I struggled really hard. I didn't get any help. It wound up being a real problem in my marriage at the time because I was refusing to get help for it and my ex-husband wasn't really sure what to do with me because I was dealing with both the postpartum depression for having a kid and the unresolved grief from losing my dad a couple of years earlier. And so I had a really hard time and I don't really know how I got through it. I was working at Safeway as a cake decorator at the time and I had to leave right after I came back from maternity leave. I came back in the middle of graduation season and it activated my tendonitis and I was home by myself with Kat for 7 months and that just made it worse. Not that I didn't love being home with my kid, but yeah, it was a problem. So I don't have any good advice on that. As for being an artist, my journey at that point was I wasn't really making art for myself, but I was cake decorating, which was a form of art for me. I didn't really start making art for myself until I joined the planner community. I lost touch with that part of myself when my kids were small, and I do not recommend. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. Have you ever considered cannabis as a form of pain meds? Yes. Also, how do you deal with the guilt on days when you need to get shit done but you have no more spoons left because of chronic illness? Remember what I said earlier about how rest is productive? I have to keep reminding myself of that. That's why I bought a pillow. The best way for me to not feel guilty is to think about the things that other people in my house could do that I feel guilty about not doing, and I just make them do it, and I turn on the indignant part of me, and that helps. But I'm not great at dealing with the guilt of that when it hits me really hard because I tend to overachieve. Now I'm gonna talk about some work-related questions, except for YouTube. The YouTube questions will be in their own category. I've got a bunch of questions about lettering. What made you decide to start lettering professionally prior to Trader Joe's? How did you start doing freelance lettering? What got you interested in lettering in the first place? I've always been interested in handwriting and lettering just for the fun. When I was cake decorating, learning how to letter on cakes was actually something that I was both really good at and I loved, and I would judge the shit out of people who also worked in the bakery who would write on cakes who sucked ass at it when I could have written on them. So that's not my finest moment. I did not get super interested in doing it or even think about it as a possible career until I started doing it at Trader Joe's. And then even then, all I was really thinking about was doing it for work. I never really thought about it until I joined the planner community, and even then it still hadn't really occurred to me yet. And I'm still not somebody who does like the fancy brush calligraphy. I can do that, but that's not what I base my like work around, like doing wedding invitations and shit like that. I can, it's not a majority of the work I do. It just sort of happened. That's the way most of my life has gone. I've kind of flown by the seat of my pants until something felt good. Speaking of which, did you make the decision to work for yourself full-time at the start, or was it a gradual transition? It was a gradual transition. I did not think that what I was doing was building something that could help me work for myself, and I never even thought about it because I worked at Trader Joe's. I had the schedule I wanted, I was doing a job I enjoyed, and I had the flexibility to do the things I wanted to for my kids' school and shit like that. Problem came when they started fucking with my schedule, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna live this life. I'm gonna go and work for myself, and so I did. So it wasn't really a choice of like, ooh, I want to be an entrepreneur. It was, God damn it, I would have stayed here forever if you hadn't fucked with my schedule, and then they fucked with my schedule. After 12 years, I was like, nope, that's That's how I did it. I'm not the blueprint for how to do this. Are you working your dream job? If not, what is? I don't really have a dream job. I always have wanted to be able to enjoy what I'm doing, to have relative amount of financial security where our bills are paid. I don't have to make a shit ton of money. I just want to make enough money to make sure that we're not stressed about money all the time, because I've been there for most of my life and it sucks ass and I hate it. I just want something that has the flexibility originally for my kids, but now also for my health, and that I like doing. And so I guess this is my dream job. A great employee, but a terrible boss. So being my own boss kind of can suck ass sometimes. Did you ever think about moving towards a better money opportunity that isn't art related for the financial peace of mind? If I ever got to the point where this was not doing what I need it to do to keep us, like, for me, money matters because I don't like being stressed out about money. I don't need a lot of money. We actually don't spend a lot of money except for the fucking high cost of living. But like, we're not spenders. We don't buy a bunch of like shit. You know, we don't buy expensive things. And so we don't need a ton, but I want enough to not be stressed about money. And if this kind of work was making money really stressful, I would find something else to do and continue to do fun stuff on the side. Right now, that's not a problem, so I'm not worried about it. But yeah, I absolutely would if I had to. Will you be creating Skillshare classes for lettering, more in-depth ones specifically? Yes, stay tuned. Are you releasing a second lettering book? I don't know. My next book is going to be a doodle book. I do not know about a second lettering book yet. Do you have a font of any of your hand lettering alphabets? I actually have a couple of fonts of some of my hand lettering alphabets. They're not fancy fonts. I made them through like a website. I think it's called like Calligrapher or something like that. I made them for my own use so that I could be lazy, not to sell or anything. If I was going to sell a font, I would be a lot more careful with how I made it. So I don't have one that you can use, but I have one that I can use. I don't know if there's much interest in a font of mine. I'm not gonna, like, especially not my handwriting, but like of my lettering, like, I don't know. Any ideas rumbling around in your head about how your Patreon might evolve or change? I love the support in it, but I'm curious what you may have in mind. I've got a bunch of ideas, but none of them are really fully formed yet. So stay tuned in the Patreon for that. When they get fully formed, I'll keep you in the loop. If someone asked you how to make money online, what would you tell them to get into, given they have limited money resources but can be artsy? The key thing to know about making money online, making art, is that you don't need a shit ton of people following you. You need enough people who are willing to spend money on the things that you make. So knowing that you're making or doing something that people are interested in is key. I actually am not great at advising on this because, like I have said already, I fly by the seat of my pants. I recommend for anybody who wants to be creative and find a way to make a living being creative, whatever that might look like, to listen to the Creative Pep Talk podcast. I will link that in the description along with all the other links that are down there. He breaks things down really, really well and gives a lot of great advice on how to both figure out your own creative path, but also to really hone in on the thing that you do that can help you build a career out of it. Have you ever thought about going to school for graphic design? I've thought about it. I probably won't. This is a fun fact. If I decide to seriously go to school for anything, it'll be to be a UU minister. And that costs a lot of money. I don't think I have that much money. Did you take art classes? I took art classes in high school and college, but I did not focus on any particular thing. How do you come up with your ideas for the Chrissy Design Celebrations collection? I don't. Kristen comes up with most of the ideas and I do what she tells me to do. If it comes to figuring out what lettering I'm gonna use, or if there's like specific doodles she wants, but I need to kind of figure out the direction to go with them, I do a bunch of looking around for inspiration and just sketching around until I come up with a style or with a kind of a vibe that I want to carry through all the stuff I do, so that kind of has a cohesive feel. Ultimately, she creative directs me and I follow orders. What is your favorite and least favorite medium? Honorable mentions too. My favorite medium for art is watercolor, closely followed by pen and ink. Although I am now starting to get into gouache, I'm enjoying that. My least favorite medium is pastels. I love the look of pastel art, and I did some of that on chalkboards for Trader Joe's. I hate how it feels on my fingers. Anything with a texture fucking bugs me. Pastels, collaging sometimes feels that way. Fucking clay. Blah. Do you miss working at Trader Joe's? Do you have any pictures of the signage you did for them? What came first, bullet journaling or making signs? Signs came first. I've always used a planner and fucked around in my planner, but bullet journaling came much after that. Much after. I mostly miss when I was working with a couple of my really good friends in there and the camaraderie that we had. I don't miss wearing the Trader Joe's shirt every day to work, and I don't miss the politics from working anywhere, but a grocery store, man. Grocery stores. Somebody should make a sitcom about working in a grocery store. I do have some pictures. If I can find some, I'll pop them up here. Okay, let's move on to YouTube questions, the part of my work that got enough questions where I made it its own category. Why did you start a YouTube channel? What did your family think of it? Were you worried about privacy? I started a YouTube channel because people asked me to make videos of how I did hand lettering. You can watch my old Llamas Love Lettering videos and see just how like wretched they were, but they were fun, but they were wretched. I did it because people asked me to. I was really nervous about it. As for my family, they were amused. They still are. And being worried about privacy, sometimes I worry about it because my fucking planner is out there. I don't vlog a lot of my life, and my teenagers and my husband and anybody else in my life, I don't violate anything about their stories unless they have given me permission to. Anything I talk about with my kids or Jesse here on the internet, they have given me permission to talk about it. And if I don't talk about it, and there are things I don't talk about, it's because it's not mine to tell. I tell most everything that's in my head though, like about me. Not much that I hide there. My biggest reasons about privacy is like where I'm gonna be at any given time, but I guess now with COVID, I'm always at home. But yeah, when it comes to privacy, I am mostly concerned with privacy for my family, and I just try to respect their boundaries as best as I can. That's why a lot of the shit in my bullet journal is acronyms or code names. And there's sometimes I've concealed things where it's a project I'm not allowed to talk about, because it's like working on the book before I'm allowed to talk about it, or doing stuff for Kristen or whatever, or a freelance project where I'm under like an NDA. But like a lot of it for my family is just because it's not anybody's business, but it's something that's in my planner. So I have to figure out a way to put it in there without making it everybody's business. How are you so confident to share so much of your life online? And do you even get much hate? I have no idea how I am this confident. I have always been an oversharer. I just had a conversation with a friend today. You know, they're like, I'd share something with you, it's gonna be TMI, and I'm like, my entire fucking life is too much information, so no, it's cool, dude. I just believe in being honest, and I am like honest to a fault, like honest to a point where tact has not come into the question. I don't know how to be any other way. So it's not about being confident as much as it is about habit, I guess. As for getting hate, I don't get a lot of hate that I've seen. If there is hate on me, people don't say it very often on my channel. The biggest hate that I get, quote unquote hate, is about my language. And I don't even see that as hate as much as people who don't like my language. And I'm not going to change it, so you don't need to say anything. But if you're going to say something, that's cool, but you're not going to change my mind. I don't know if I do anything that could like bait the hate. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm sure I do, but I just haven't. My audience is very nice to me. So thanks. Are you doing a home or office tour sometime soon? Apparently I'm a nosy fuck. Can we have a house tour, please? Except for kids' rooms to respect their privacy. Yes, stay tuned. An office tour at least. A house tour, maybe? I mean, my house is tiny, but at least an office tour soon. Would you consider adding more book or reading videos in the future? I mean, maybe if that's what people want to see, but like I've been putting it on Instagram mostly in the stories because I wasn't sure if it fit on the channel or not. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. Are you gonna do daily vlogs again? Daily videos like I did in Vlogmas where they're not actually vlogs or actual vlogs? I would like to, but I don't know when that would fit in my life. Coming up soon. Are you going to do new lettering videos? Yes, stay tuned. Will we see new supply test battles of again? Well, by the time you're seeing this video, hopefully my highlighter Thunderdome would have happened, and I will be doing more in the future, so yes. It would be cool to see your whole pen collection and for you to rate them top, second, and so on. That's a cool video, and I actually think that might be a video I will do sometime in the next few months, so stay tuned for that as well. When I got this question, I was like, oh snap. Has your view on hyper-consumerism, which I applaud, and influencer culture affected your relationship with any fellow Instagram planners? Not that I know of. Nobody has said anything to me. I have no idea what people say not to me. So I don't know. Maybe? Question mark? Do you get paid if I skip ads? Not on YouTube. Unless, like, if you skip an ad, then no. I think you have to watch it for me to get paid, but I'm not entirely certain. I don't really pay that much attention because, like I said, I'm not a professional. I get paid, but I'm not a professional. What advice do you have for someone starting a new channel? Make lots of videos. Don't worry about whether or not they suck. The more videos you make, the better you will get. That's my biggest tip. I have made over 1,000 videos and I'm still figuring this shit out. Just make videos and don't worry about how many people are watching you. If you can find one person who watches you, who loves watching you and identifies with you, that is the greatest feeling in the world. So don't worry about that. What program would you recommend to make YouTube videos? I use Final Cut Pro. iMovie works just fine. Whatever you get for free works great to start with because you'll get better, and then the better you get, the more you'll have an idea of what you wanted. I worked with iMovie for the longest time, tried Premiere Pro, but it was too fancy for me and settled on Final Cut. How would you suggest someone get started on YouTube doing what you do, and what advice would you give on building a brand? I just filmed and edited my first few videos, but I'm too nervous to get started. I'm gonna go back to that earlier question and make lots of videos, but when it comes comes to, quote, building a brand, I don't know how to do that except to be myself. As you make them, you'll start to really figure out what it is you like, what it is that you like doing on camera, and it'll help you figure it out. If you go into starting a YouTube channel with this idea of your brand in mind, then you're gonna feel like that's the box you're in, where when you start in the beginning, just make lots of things and figure it out as you go, because it'll feel better for you in the long run. Can you take a photo of your setup for your Plan With Me's as well as your setup for when you go live? I'm planning to start my own channel. I know everyone does things different. I'm just trying to see what will work for me. I will pop a setup in here when it comes to my Plan With Me videos and my live streams. I do the same thing. I have an articulating arm that either holds my webcam or my camera, and then I either use the natural light from the window or lighting that I have hidden behind my computer that I'll pop out. I'm not great at the lighting when it comes to those things, but I just do what I can. I film on my camera and then edit on my computer. For live streams, I use a software called OBS, and I use a webcam that is connected to my computer. I've got a bunch of questions related to planning and bullet journaling. I've got a bunch of things about like my planning journey. What kind of planner were you as a child? What was your planning journey? Are you someone that's always been into stationery and journaling? When did you start? I don't remember when I first started, probably 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, in that area. When I was a kid, I had this old Lady Remington shaver bag. It was a little zip bag that was supposed to hold the Lady Remington shaver, and I got it at a garage sale with like some of my allowance, and I got rid of the shaver and used the bag to collect all of my stickers, lots of Lisa Frank stickers, lots of Mrs. Grossman stickers, lots of scratch and sniff stickers. My sisters and I collected the shit out of stickers and then we'd trade them. I had a planner that I would use to like figure my shit out. But if you want to know what I really got into, especially in high school and college, was color-coded notes. I was a fan of college-ruled 5-star notebooks with all the tabs and color-coded notes. I'm one of those people who, during a lecture, will write everything down and then never look at the notes again, except maybe to recopy them and make them nicer. And that's how I learned information. So yeah, I was all about the color-coded notes, and I used those Pentel RSVP pens. They were my favorites. When it came to getting older, I got some printed planners. Like, you bought the planner printable online and then got it printed at like Staples or whatever. I did that for a while. I had discovered Erin Condren planners maybe in 2012, 2013, but I couldn't afford one, so I would print planners until finally Jesse was like, just fucking buy the planner, spend the money on it, because you're gonna spend way more money getting all these things printed. And I bought it and fell down the rabbit hole of the Erin Condren community, and then joined Planners Gone Wild when it first opened as Erin Condren Fans Gone Wild. I think I was in there in week 2. And then I wound up bouncing around different Erin Condren planners, Inkwell Press, and then my friend Madi Mundo finally talked me into trying bullet journaling, and that has moved me to where I am now. Not a huge journaler, but I did keep diaries mostly to write down what I did that day. I have always been somebody who writes shit down. It has gotten more fancy as I have gotten older, and I remember how I said before that I wasn't making art for myself. My way to start carving creative time out for myself was when I started creative planning, because it felt like I was being productive while being creative. And that allowed me to give myself more permission to be creative for myself that did not involve planning. When you do creative jobs, I was cake decorating and working in the sign room, so much of your energy gets used for your job that you're not always good at using it for yourself. Planning was like my gateway into being creative for myself again. Do you remember about a year ago I asked you in your YouTube comments if you had to use only one planner, which would it be? And you said bullet journal, and you do now, except for power sheets. Sending my love. I do remember that, and I find that highly ironic. What is your all-time favorite pen? What's your favorite pen right now? My all-time favorite pen, the pen I will probably always go back to, is probably a Pilot G2. But my favorite pen right now is a combination between the Pentel Klena 05 and Optimus Fineliner, which I fucking love. After looking at so many goal planners, in your opinion, what do you think the best ones are for 20-something broke millennials? Honestly, go to the website, follow one of my videos for the power sheets, or go to the Moxie Live website where they have free stuff, and find the free stuff and get yourself a fucking notebook and do it that way. Like, if you are broke, there's enough goal setting stuff online where you don't need the planner, so don't use it. If it's about the goals, if it's about the fancy planner, then you're gonna be spending money regardless. But there is enough free resources out there where you should be able, like, you can listen to the Cultivate What Matters podcast to get all the power sheets prep work information. You can go to Moxie Life, they've got stuff on there. A lot of the other goal planning systems have stuff on their websites to get you to buy the planner. Just don't buy the planner. Put your credit card somewhere else and get a notebook. Do you have a system for inventorying your pen brands and colors? Sorta. I have a swatch book that I have started. I used to keep swatches in my bullet journal, but then I have to find the bullet journal. So I've started in this little tiny Baron Fig. It's the tiny like pocket-sized Confidant. I've started putting color swatches in here. I've only gotten so far as to do my Pitt pens and my Tombos, but eventually I want to have all my pens in here. How are you liking your current planner setup? Dude, I just did my birthday stream where I set up a really minimal week and I am fucking loving it. I got some Erin Condren questions. Will you ever go back to Erin Condren products? Will you ever return to using the Erin Condren? What are your thoughts on supporting Erin Condren? Why did you decide to stop using the Erin Condren Life Planner? I'm not going to rehash the whole situation because it wasn't just that situation, but back during the Black Lives Matter protests, Erin Condren's kids had a graduation march that they did in defiance of COVID-19 restrictions and said, well, Black Lives Matter protests can do it, so we can just pretend we're a Black Lives Matter. It just was very like out of touch in a very wealthy community with a whole bunch of white kids. And that was like, I just couldn't after that. And there are plenty of other times where Erin Condren, the brand or the person, has done stuff that is out of touch or problematic, where I was like, okay, but we'll give it another chance. We'll see how they're doing, blah, blah, blah. And this time I couldn't anymore. And I recognize that there are some people that were like, well, you should have done it before. You know, I get that. You can be like not happy with me for that. And there's other people who are like, well, there's other people who are still using it. And honestly, my answer to that is it's not that I'm like putting a pox on all of their houses. And if you have Erin Condren stuff that you bought and you want to use, I still have the clipboards up there because I fucking bought those and I'm going to use them. But if you have products that you want to use it because you already paid for them, then fucking use them. And if you want to still keep using them because you're happy with the steps that the company is taking or that this is not where you want to put your efforts into, then fucking do that too. Will I ever use their products again? I don't know. I guess what it all boils down to is that there are so many other fucking companies out there that not using one company does not radically alter my life in any other way, except for the fact that I had to replace a system that had been working so well for me. But I'm actually very happy with the system that I have now, maybe happier than I was, and so I'm fine with that. So ultimately, there is no such thing as conscious consumerism under capitalism. There's always going to be harm caused regardless of where we buy our things, and we all have to make our choices on how we spend our money, and this is the choice I'm making right now. For me, I don't give a shit what other people's choices are because I don't have to live your life. That's that. Is there anything that used to be worth purchasing a few years back but isn't now because of quality decline? Not exclusively art planner supplies. I got really mad when Scribbles That Matter changed their paper. That wasn't a quality decline. That was a production choice, but that really pissed me off. And this is going to be super random. This is not art or planner supply related. The cheese enchiladas in the freezer at Trader Joe's, like a little 2-pack of cheese enchiladas, they changed the recipe on those. I used to love them. They used to be like my quick lunch at Trader Joe's when I didn't know what else to eat. And now they're not as good, and I was really disappointed. What planning thing do you have a metric shit ton of but never use? Stamps and stencils. I have one stamp that I'm using in my bullet journal right now, but I only use stamps and stencils when I do a fuckery plan with me. I don't know why I have so many. Favorite super extra planning item that nobody needs but is freaking awesome regardless. Fancy scissors, because I have these fancy rose gold ones. I know I've seen other people with those ones that look like the Eiffel Tower. Let's be real, none of them cut as well or feel as good as in your hands as like good old fucking Fiskars. Like none of them do. But goddamn, they're extra and amazing. If you had to choose one planner item you can't live without, what would it be? A good pen. Doesn't even matter what brand, just as long as it's a good pen. 200 GSM paper or Hobonichi used TP paper? Hobonichi used TP paper because I like the used feel more than the perfect feel, even though I hate them both. Do you ever have days where you make a to-do list on a Post-it note and call it good? Yes, all the time. Not as much now that I'm only bullet journaling though, funny thing. Thoughts on digital planning? If you're talking about the kind where you like write in GoodNotes, I am dipping my toe in the water and so far I don't like it. 5 things a person needs to start journaling. A notebook, a pen, a set time where you're going to actually sit down with it every single day, and that's it. I wouldn't even go with any other stuff. I would just go with those things to begin with. The more stuff you have, the less likely you're going to start. Fell in love with the BuJo after I bought a dated planner. Help! You can always redate the planner. You can give the planner to somebody else. You can find another use for the planner. You can try using the bullet journal method in your dated planner for a while. There's also a bunch of things you can do with it. I would try using the bullet journal method in the dated planner, like instead of decorating the shit out of something, just use it to like bullet journal your days. That could be one way to use it up. Or just give it to somebody else, man. I'm sure other people would take it, as long as there's nothing like super private in there. What planning styles have you tried and decided against using? Anything that's in discs or in rings. I hate both. I know those aren't planning styles, those are like containment styles, but I fucking can't, man. I cannot. What do you suggest planning-wise for people that procrastinate everything? To not use a planner. To use a to-do list or Post-it notes or a digital calendar, not a digital planner. Take out all the frou-frou bullshit and just focus on getting your shit done, and reward yourself with frou-frou bullshit the more shit that you get done. How do you decide the monthly theme for your bullet journal? I'm struggling to find inspiration. I pick colors first and then do what goes with the colors because I like the colors. Colors are my favorite part. I mean, you can find inspiration looking online, or you can find inspiration like I found my pansies and violets theme for this month because I wanted to use purple, and then I looked at February stuff and discovered that the February birth flowers are purple. So you can look at like stuff that is connected to each month. You can think about something that's in your life that's going on. You can look at holidays, whatever the case may be. What happens to the planners that you review? I donate them, I give them away, generally speaking. For someone who has never attended a planner conference and is interested in doing so, when conferences can safely happen, again, for all, what do you recommend the person look for in a conference? How many people do you want to be around? Some things like Go Wild or fucking giant PlannerCon are humongous and have tons of people. If you don't want to be around that many people, don't go to something like that. More regional, smaller ones, there are some that focus on like a very small amount of people. Like size is the first thing to look for if that's what you want. And then do you want it to be more of a hands-on workshop experience, or do you want it to be more of like a motivational experience? Do you want a mix of both? Are you interested in parties? Are you interested in planning time or like a crop type situation? Where is it? How far are you willing to travel? It depends on what you want. I'm down to try whatever. I like going to all planner things that have their own flavor to them. So it just depends on what it is you're looking for. But I would definitely start with the question of the two big questions. How many people do you want to be around? And how much time do you want to spend with your planner? Or not. Have you participated in any Wild University content? If so, are there any classes you've really enjoyed? I watched your class and loved it. Sweet, I have a new one in the Llama Library as of February too. It's a lettering one. I have not participated anywhere near as much as I've wanted to, mostly because I have been so fucking busy with the other book and everything else. But I love Jody's classes on making cookies. There's the ones that are about the using Lightroom and the presets. I have dabbled in those and really enjoyed them. I have not really gone deep into the library, but I have dabbled around the minors and the majors. But Jody's cookie one, chef's kiss. And then the fashion drawing ones by Wrong are ones that I have peeked into and had a little bit of fun with, but want to spend a little bit more time on. What are your recommendations or ideas for mental health planning for bullet journals? I am not the best person in the world to ask that because I don't do mental health planning in my bullet journal, except for the fact that using my bullet journal to keep my life orderly is good for my mental health. So that's maybe the tip I have for you. What do you want out of it? Do you need to keep track of your meds and your appointments? Do you need to use it to get thoughts out of your head, like journaling? Do you need it to keep your shit in line or make sure you don't forget things? That's my big thing, is between the anxiety and depression I've been dealing with that I'm medicated for and my kidney brain fog where I cannot remember shit, my bullet journal is important for me to help me stay on track for the things I cannot miss, and that makes me feel less stressed out. So that's how I use it for my mental health. You need to figure out what you want out of it, and that can help you decide how to gear your system towards it, rather than trying to make the system fit your mental health. Have you found real friends through the planning community? Yes, absolutely. If the bullet journal system was never invented, what do you think people would be using instead of it? Or do you think it would always end up coming to life in time? I think it would always come to life in time. Ryder Carroll didn't invent the to-do list, and he didn't invent like the running to-do list. He streamlined a system that other people have used versions of. So yes, I would think that there would still be something going on, but I think that his method that he has come up with worked as a really great jumping off point, and I'm grateful for that. Do you have friends or family that shared your love of planning before you found the planner community? If not, how did you make and sustain friendships within the community? I didn't really. I've sort of indoctrinated some of my family into it, but not very much. I have made friendships in two ways. One is through Facebook groups and one is through in-person events. Both of those have just happened by finding people that I've had like a funny conversation with or whatever the case may be, and then taking it to DMs and talking to each other more and more. In person, I met people that are in the general vicinity, and I met a group of people that live in like the North Bay of California, where we started hanging out with each other more. Just be friendly and open and talk, and people will start noticing you, and you'll have a higher chance of finding friends in smaller communities. So like, for example, the big Planners Gone Wild Facebook group. Be hard to make new friends in there with as many people that are in there, but if you comment a lot, people will start to get to know you. But in a smaller community like the Wild You community, or in niched down, the Animal Crossing is a great one. The Planimal Crossing group was a great way to meet other people with a similar interest. So looking for groups that are like planners and books, planners and whatever. You'll find people who have similar interests to you, not just the planners, but the planners and something else. In my Discord, we have different chats for like video games and pets and cooking and things like that. So that's ways to meet people that are interested in stuff. So go to my Discord. You might make friends there, especially since in-person stuff is not the business right now. I have one more category, and that is motivation, because I have a lot of you asking me questions about like, I just put it in motivation. You'll understand as you see some of these. How do you deal with creativity slumps? I try something new, and this is not something I was always good at, but now it is like my way. If I am feeling super schlumpy, then I try something that I am not at all comfortable with, whether it's a recipe that is different than the way I cook, or a medium that is not one I usually use with art. Like I might go into Procreate and get some new brushes that I am not familiar with and experiment with those. Or I might try drawing something that I'm like, I remember there was one time I was having a big slump. I spent a lot of time drawing hands, even though I hate drawing people in general, because that helped me like loosen up a little bit. Another way to get out of a creativity slump is to limit your supplies. Amy Tangerine talked about this. You only have like certain colors or certain whatever, and then you set a timer and you have to make something with the few supplies you gave yourself. By limiting the things you can use, it gives you an opportunity to like reinvigorate your creativity. How did you become so awesome? Drugs. I'm just kidding. I don't know. How do you balance wanting to improve yourself with goals, but having a no fucks given, this is who I am and I'm great and I don't care what you think mindset? My goals aren't to improve myself. They're to improve, well, maybe they are sometimes. It's funny. I was watching a vlog, I think it was Julie's, one of Julie's Plans vlogs, and she was talking about being in a place in life. She didn't feel like achieving gigantic goals as much as setting up systems and habits. And that really resonated with me because like I'm 41 and a lot of my goals just have to do with making my life easier, smoother, less stressful. A lot of my stuff has to do with like asking for help and creating new systems and habits. To me, that's not self-improvement as much as it is life improvement. I love who I am and I'm happy with who I am. So instead, what I want is to just make my life and the way I interact with the world better for me. I don't want to eat better so I can be a better person. I want to eat the things that are good for my body the way it is right now because I want to feel better. That's not self-improvement, that's quality of life improvement. So maybe that's the way to think about it. Instead of thinking about setting your goals to improve who you are, you're setting your goals to improve your quality of life, whatever that might look like. And that meshes perfectly well with being a no fucks given, take me as I am kind of person, because everybody's life can be improved. Doesn't matter how fancy you are. Any tips on keeping control of yourself when you really want to lose your shit with your family? I have a 5-year-old and my parents live with me and have dementia. I saw that you got some great advice on the YouTube community tab thread for this from people who actually have experience with that, and I don't have experience with parents with dementia. As somebody whose patience levels have basically disappeared the farther I've gotten into my illness, you need to figure out a little bit of time to let off steam for yourself. You need to. And that might include asking for help. That probably should include asking for help. You got a lot of great information, so I can't pretend like I have the fabulous stuff. How do you find the motivation to get up and do what you just don't want to? How do you convince yourself to get out of bed in the morning? Where do you find the motivation to keep going when things, health, kids, pandemic get difficult? How do you do so much given your health issues right now? How do you motivate yourself to get shit done? I feel like all of those questions kind of have the same root cause. There's kind of a couple of things at play for me. One is that I have always been somebody who needs to be busy. My whole life I have been somebody who needs to be busy. I don't know how to be still. That is something I am working on, to be okay with not doing shit, and Animal Crossing actually helped me with that. You can watch my favorites from 2020 video where I talk a little bit more about that. For me, being still is difficult, and that's why, again, I have the rest is productivity pillow, because I need to remind myself that sometimes not doing anything is doing something. That actually is doing something. The other thing is I work really hard to prioritize things that must get done and the things that would be nice to get done, and focus on the must get dones first. Because if you only have one must get done and you take care of that and you have other things, I don't worry about it if I'm feeling crappy or if I'm feeling tired or if I'm just not feeling it. I'm also a procrastinator, hardcore. I cannot anymore convince myself that I work best under pressure. I don't. I'm just making my hair fall out. I try to break things down in a way where it feels like one small task that leads towards the big end. Finishing that feels as important as finishing the big task, because if I leave all the small tasks to the end, then I'm stuck doing all of those to finish the big task. But if I treat the small task with as much importance as the big task, I'm less likely to procrastinate as deeply on it. I have a Skillshare class called Project Planning for Procrastinators that kind of goes more into this. But ultimately, my motivation for getting out of bed when I have to get things done is that when I don't get things done, things really, really suck, and it's so much harder to catch up. It's like a scale. Suckiness to catch up, suckiness to get out of bed and get things done. And when the suckiness to catch up weighs much heavier than the suckiness to get things done, I'll get things done. If the suckiness to get things done and the suckiness to catch up don't feel that weighted, then I might not get out of bed and get some shit done. It just depends. There are days where I have a whole list of things I'm going to do for work and I wind up not doing anything because I'm feeling so bleh about it. And I have that capability because I work for myself, but that means I also pay the price later. There's been a lot of people that have told me that like they're always in awe of the things I get done, especially is how sick I am. But the flip side of that is because I am so sick, the amount of shit that I get done takes a toll on me. I do try to show how bad it can be for me sometimes because I want you to understand that those days where I get hella shit done have a price. And sometimes I make decisions that were not a good idea and then I hella pay for it. And often there was a point where recently, what was it that I don't even remember what it was I did. I did something and Kat warned me that I was going to regret it. And I regretted it later and I told Kat they were right. And Kat was like, ooh, I need to like record this. Mom said she was wrong. To me, my kid stayed up late reading one night and looked like totally dragged through hell the next morning. I brought up my kind of system for when I was younger and I would get hella drunk at a party and then I'd be hungover the next day. And the question I would ask myself is, was it worth it? And so that's the question you should start thinking about when it comes to your motivation. Will it be worth it to not get your shit done tomorrow when you have to take care of all the extra shit? If it'll be worth it to you, taking a day in bed and not getting your shit done and having extra shit to do the next day would be worth it, then there you go. But if it won't be worth it, really think about whether or not you want to drink from the tap of staying in bed tequila, because sometimes tequila is not the best decision. And that is the end of this extremely long Q&A. I hope that I gave you some interesting information. I don't think I've ever filmed a Q&A this long before. My ass kind of hurts. You have made it this long, then I just want you to leave me a comment below telling me the kind of alcohol that you just are not friends with. For me, it's actually whiskey. Even the smell of whiskey grosses me out. And if you don't drink alcohol at all, just say that. Anybody who drops a random alcohol comment below, I'll know that you made it through the entire video and I will be impressed. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this video. Stay safe because I love you, and subscribe or I won't love you. That's not true. I probably still will, but you should subscribe anyway. And until next time, friends, peace out.